Okay, over to you, James.
Hello, everybody. My name is James Riordan. I am artistic director of a company called Brew Theatre, based in Galway. We just turned 2 years old this week. So I kind of write and I perform and I make and Brew work a lot with masks and with traditional music and with new writing. I come from a background of physical theatre. I would be one of the performance directors with Machnus, and I am the current artist in residence with the Town Hall Theatre in Galway. I've kind of put together a program of events that has taken a little bit of a turn for the year 2020. So that's me.
Great, thanks very much. Congratulations on Brew's birthday.
Thank you.
That's exciting. It's a strange time to be celebrating a theatrical birthday, but
we didn't really make a fuss because it's a strange time.
Yeah. So you were a resident artist on the Creative Europe project Make a Move, which Galway Theatre Festival was one of the partners. And Make a Move's official kind of tagline is an art incubator for contemporary European non-institutionalized theatre, which just rolls off the tongue. But it was a 2-year-long project, certainly from our end. But let us know, tell us about your experience of the project and what you did and what it meant for you as an artist.
So it was really great. My kind of involvement was probably between maybe April and December of last year. So we applied at the beginning of the year, I think, and I was chosen as one of 10 resident artists. So they were artists from all over Europe, mainly. Always, actually. It's a Creative Europe project. But some of the artists were based in Europe, but actually originally from outside of Europe. And it was divided into 3 labs. And so Galway Theatre Festival and Galway 2020 were 2 of the partners involved. And therefore the first lab was in Galway. And then there was one in Croatia and one in Romania. People had met previously in Barcelona, I think not the artists, but a lot of the other partners had met. And so the idea behind it, I suppose, was to bring European artists together from different countries and cultures and practices to integrate them with local scenes. So there was 10 local artists per lab. And so that cross-pollination was definitely one of the major driving points of it. And also to kind of, this idea of non-institutionalized theatre makers, which took me a little while to realize meant independent, was to give them confidence in applying for kind of Creative Europe level funding, which for anyone who does it or has done it will know is really full on, big time. So I think that they recognized a need and a maybe lack of support in a way where these independent theatre makers were kind of hitting on a roof, and they wanted to make an incubator where there was no real pressure, but at the same time we were really kind of learning, exchanging, questioning. So it was really, really great, and I feel very lucky in the current climate to have done something so wonderful, so close to this kind of pandemic, because now it just seems crazy that you would fly artists to different places and they'd all just do physical theatre and be all up in each other's space all the time and eat together, and it was really, really great. So the first lab was around digital technologies, and it was in Inisheer, or Zayna. It was a little bit in Galway, and actually the mainland European artists, along with some of the local artists, not all local artists were from Galway, some were kind of, it was more Ireland basically. They arrived just as it was a storm, so the ferries were cancelled and we all had to kind of lastminute.com stay in Galway an extra night.
I do remember the scramble for hotel rooms on the last week of April, which was no mean feat. No,
and it's really funny now in kind of what we know now about how things change quickly. At the time, it was like Armageddon, it was like, what are we going to do? So maybe there was a little bit of preparation for kind of what came next, but it was handled very well, and it was a very well organized lab through the Theatre Festival and 2020 around learning about things like mapping, and VR, virtual reality. So we had kind of experts who would come and give demonstrations, and were on hand on Inishir, where we were all living, to help us, and we were kind of let loose. And it was really wonderful. Like, there was a lot of great work made. You know, you can imagine VR is so strange anyways, and the possibilities are massive, and then you put that kind of technology on Inishir, where the landscape is so evocative, and those were really kind of, yeah, breathtaking. Some really good work done. I was also specifically working with binaural sound, so they have like a head with two microphones, and it picks up everything in kind of surround sound, and then whatever you record, you put, and you make sure that you have the right and the left ear. You can tell that my technical jargon is well up to speed. Have the left and the right of the left, and it kind of sounds. It's really really cool. I did one where I put the mannequin head in a bed, and so me and some actors worked around the bed. And then if you lay in the bed later and put the thing in, it really sounded like someone was in the room. So it kind of senses a little bit. Yeah, it was great. I was full on convinced I was going to make a big piece when I came back, but it never really materialized. But that was a kind of one of the pieces. Then we were learning how to do mapping, and I think for a lot of independent theatre folk, technology is not their forte. You know, it's theatre, it's live, it's on stage. If it goes wrong, you have to cope. It's audience interaction, it's that live shared experience, it's all those things that make us love it and make most of us not be in film, is you know, is all those human bits. And so technology is I would say doesn't come naturally to a huge amount of us, certainly that were there on the laboratory. So that was really great, to learn about, you know, to take ideas and just try them and get it wrong. And the way they did it was they mixed the 10 resident artists with the 10 local artists in groups, so that you'd have kind of 2 of each and 3 of each straight away. So there was no, I mean, the 10 artists met for the first 2 days just to kind of introduce each other, because we were all together for the longer period. And then the locals came on board, and straight away we were all mixed and integrated. We were all staying in the same hotel and eating breakfast and an occasional pint of Guinness. So yeah, that was the first one, and then we went on through.
So you went on then to, was Rijeka the second lab,
yes.
and then on to Târgu in Romania.
And then Târgu in Romania, which is in Transylvania, which was really interesting. And so the one in Croatia was kind of run by the artistic director of the whole Make a Move project, whose name is Ivana Paranik, and she runs an organization called Krila in Rijeka. Now, Rijeka is also the capital of culture 2020. So capital of culture is generally there's 2, sometimes 3, but for this year there was 2. And she, funny enough, she met a group of people who were involved in Make a Move while studying mime in London. And so this project had been actually years in the making and years in the talking about before I came on board. And so quite a few of them kind of knew each other, maybe half. And a lot of them were into mime. So although it was like a kind of a, you know, non-institutionalized artists, there was a lot of mime people. So it was kind of like a very funny dynamic, and it's great, you know, mime artists are super trained and their technique is flawless, and, you know, they can really take you places standing alone on stage. So, but it was an interesting dynamic. I don't think I've been around so many mimes in one space. So we went to Croatia, and whereas the first lab was technology, digital practices, the second lab was to do with site-specific. And so we kind of took over the city, and beforehand we had been given photographs of different locations throughout the city of Rijeka, which is a port city and kind of has a real Italian feel to it. So when we got there, again, we met the 10 local artists, and we kind of went to all the different venues. So there was an old opera basement downstairs, huge, beautiful kind of ballroom, super glamorous, that definitely has never existed in Ireland, but hadn't been open and used for years and years. There was the top of I I think 13-story apartment building, looking out over the sea and the city again, which would be next to impossible to make a piece of theatre on in Ireland. And there was a shop window, which was kind of like a, like a big glass pane window on a street. And then there was this kind of forest woods stream place. So there was these different venues, and people chose where they wanted to go, and then they were mixed in with the locals, and everybody devised pieces of work. And I was working with a guy called Rodrigo Pardo, who is an Argentinian choreographer, theatre maker based in France. And the two of us devised a piece involving binoculars and earphones and lip syncing, all about superheroes. So
which venue, where were you based for that piece?
Sorry, we were on the roof.
On the roof, cool.
So the audiences would be on this huge, like very high roof with binoculars and earphones, listening to like an inner thoughts thing and watching me as Superman kind of wandering around having a bit of an existential crisis. And then our group expanded to have two lovely local artists. And so then like it was Batgirl and Batman, and yeah, it was really, really fun. And it ended up like we walked all the way around the building and went into a cafe, and quite a high up cafe on the 8th floor or whatever. So we were lip syncing this thing and everyone was watching from across the street. And yeah, it was really, like, the form was really interesting. Yes. And again, stuff that I knew not how to do. So I learned a lot from it. And I think the way that audiences really engaged with how you walked through the city and you didn't know what was coming next. And then you go to the shop front, and there'd be this really kind of weird aquarium thing with these people in swimming togs with big flippers doing this kind of mime. And then you'd go, underground to the opera, and they had a whole 40-minute piece, and everyone was having wine, and it was like just really strange and kind of obscure. And yeah, it was really, really cool.
Yeah, it sounds magical. So did the same audience go to all of the events?
Kind of like a tour.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like a tour. Really cool. Yeah. And something that I'd love to kind of bring here in some way, because it worked, and they were trying to make theatre in non-theatrical spaces, and of course that relies a lot on good relationships with local authorities and stuff. But obviously this was also supported by RIAC in 2020, and was part of their program too. And so they had a big kind of opening, and the mayor was there, and the head of the 2020 thing was there, and yeah, it was great. And then the third one, sorry not to be rambling on about
no,
the
it's
third
great.
one was in Targamorish, which is in Transylvania, as I've mentioned. And I mean, it was amazing because I knew nothing of Romania, and I think they get really bad press for one reason or another. And I knew kind of embarrassingly little about this kind of Hungarian-Romanian situation, whereby in Transylvania, which is one of the richer parts of Romania, it's kind of half Hungarian, half Romanian, and yet everything has to be done in the Romanian language, and there's real tension there. Okay. And so we arrived and we were like, what do you mean tension? We knew nothing. So it was really, really interesting for a lot of us. Some of us knew, but most, I think, of the resident artists didn't realize just how kind of in tension people were living, or a lot of misunderstanding maybe. So then we were based in the University of Arts Targamorish, and therefore the local artists were students of the university.
Okay. Some
Hungarian, some Romanian. And so the first few days was definitely kind of more getting our heads around the history and the politics and the tensions. And then what happened? We were kind of brought up ideas around these tensions, and then we were given headings and themes, and then we kind of broke into groups that way, and we just devised. It was great because you had a timeline and you had a certain amount of time to get something ready, and the public, again, similar to both Galway and Croatia, Rijeka, there was an audience that were coming, and the work in progress was going to be shown, and it was kind of glass of wine and that kind of vibe. So I ended up working with a wonderful artist called Maria Gill, who is a co-artistic director of a company called Teatro de Silencio, which is based in Lisbon. And we were working around the idea of bells and the the mechanics of the body when you walk. So the kind of the hand forward.
Okay.
So we took this kind of motion as a starting point, and bells and the healing nature of bells, and how the ringing of bells means very different things to different people. And so we were the kind of core creatives that moved out into encompassing some of the local artists, and then we took one or two of the resident artists when they were on breaks from their devising to be part of a piece that we did kind of in the dark, all around the meditative nature of these bells, and it was kind of choreographed, which is the kind of stuff I tend to like in the movement side of things. So it went very well. I mean, there were some great pieces. This couple did a kind of strange dance / making a cake in the shape of Romania thing, and there was a whole history of different countries and lots of mime. Again, obviously lots of mime.
Sounds like there was a huge amount of freedom in it to explore anything that kind of came to mind.
Yes. Yeah. And like, it wasn't all rosy, you know. Some people, I had a good experience, but for some people, the way the groups were done didn't really work for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, of course, because people have opinions and there's no director, you know, it's devised theater, it's democratic, and that is lovely in theory, but can be really hard if some voices are being overheard or not being heard. And, you know, I studied kind of devised theater in a place called Lisbon in London. And the hardest thing is getting anywhere with consensus. So it can be tricky. And I think that different people have different ways of working, and you've got a short amount of time to get to know somebody. So, you know, it wasn't all rosy, but again, my personal experience was very positive.
Do you have any, if you were to pick something as a highlight, James, if you can pick one,
if I was to pick something as the highlight, I mean, the people, you know, and I've really managed to maintain links with some of the artists that we plan to work with. It's good, especially because we are an island here, and it can be hard to access European theatre, you know, and having been abroad for years and just kind of getting used to having it. It was nice to feel connected to kind of artists further afield, and to take inspiration and like to learn. You know, I feel much more capable now of dealing with tech, and kind of inspired by the power, you know, the potential of South Pacific. And then throughout all of this, there was like a business modules. So there was a kind of someone from the Arts Council in England, someone from the Arts Council in England, and somebody who has a very good record of writing, I think 100% success rate of writing Creative Europe applications. Amazing. And so we were given lectures, and people were encouraged to come together and think of an idea that they might apply for money, and how would you apply for money, and what do you need to apply for money. And that was one of the real, you know, pinpoints of it too, to kind of get people up to feeling like Creative Europe is for them, because I think a lot of people think Creative Europe is just too big. You know, it passes amount of money, and there's match funding, and there's a huge amount of reporting. And so I think Ireland's gotten a bit better, but they used to be really underrepresented in terms of what kind of percentage of people were applying to Creative Europe funding. And I certainly I now know how. I mean, it's very involved and it's years long, but and now I suppose that the landscape has changed a lot, but I certainly feel much more capable of it, and I definitely know where to go to ask for help, which is another
which is half the battle in many ways. I know from our experience of it, like, it's been fantastic to be able to be part of a project that gives time and expertise and all of that kind of thing to artists to explore, that doesn't have I know you had scratch kind of showings and that, but there wasn't a focus on production the way that maybe it's very much an incubator, which was a really great element of it for us. But it is a huge undertaking as a partner. It's an even bigger undertaking as the lead partner. But I think to be training people to understand what's involved before you go into it, and to know where you can say, I don't know what I'm doing here, can you give me a hand, is a huge step in empowering people to be able to do it.
And I was Lucky McGee. Do you know what I mean? I was rocking up being like, sure, let's just take some theatre and it'll be great. And
Yeah.
what are we eating this evening? You know, and making these connections and networks, you know, and I just, all this work, especially when I realized that, you know, some of that group had been talking about this since 2016.
Yeah.
I felt very lucky. And you know, and I do still, in a lot of ways, to have taken part, and also to really made the most of it. You know, I really feel like the stuff that I was due to do this year, and that I will still, some of the stuff I'll still do, and some stuff will move to next year. You know, 3 of the projects are with someone from Make a Move. You know, someone from mainland Europe, independent artist. So
Great.
that's amazing. You know, it's something that would never have happened otherwise.
And tell us a bit about your projects, James. Am I correct in saying that a goal, which was a work in progress piece for GTF 2020, or should have been, was that one of your Creative Europe?
Yes, that was one of the Creative Europe, yes. And that's all to do with Irish keening and death lamenting.
Yes.
And
I was very excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
The characters of the keeners and who they were in Irish society and how they were kind of eradicated. And now us finding ourselves in a moment when actually something like that, it could be really useful to people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of taken on a whole other meaning in the last little while. But it's been something in the back of my head for a while now. And I met a woman called Juliana Bloodgood, who is an American based in Poland. And she, for the last 10 years, was in a company called Song of the Goat, which would be one of the top vocal performance companies in the world, I think it's fair to say. And she had just left to pursue her own projects, and we kind of met, and within our first conversation, she hadn't been on the first one in Galway, so we met in Riordan. And on the first day that we met, I just started talking about, she mentioned Song of the Goat and I mentioned keening, and it was like this.
Great.
And we got goosebumps, and it was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. So she was due to be here in March, and she was due to give a workshop here in April, and then she's due to come for rehearsals in July. But it's all kind of up in the air. She's been composing kind of, it's a recontextualizing of keening, because obviously we're trying to be careful with the material, you know, respectful, and not be precious at the same time. So it's really interesting to take this traditional form, and obviously there's a lot of connotations that come with it, and to find how we might merge the art and the singing and the melodies or lack thereof with a more narrative theater kind of, because it's not a concert either. So it's really interesting, and she's very inspired and inspiring. She's really taken to I'm teaching her Irish. I'm actually writing phonetically how Irish is said, and it's sometimes crazy language. I was like, how do I even write that phonetically? I'm just hearing it go. And then sometimes she says it back to me, and it's like, that it was completely wrong. I apologize. So that's what's going on. That's called Gull, which is the Irish for cry. And we're just pushing until we can meet. We've got some great people in the ensemble who are from Ireland, and we have one woman from England who's coming over with us. And initially we'd kind of thought that we still have ideas around Creative Europe, and that because death lamenting women who sang or who cried was very prevalent in Finland, Romania, Greece, where she also is based a bit. So you've got this really like pan-European, visceral group kind of expression that obviously crosses boundaries and naturally comes to the fore in different kind of societies. So it's really interesting, and we're excited. We've just had to put the skates on a little bit.
Of course, yeah.
I'm also making a show. I've been commissioned by the Ashthrough the Ashthrough Commission, which is an NUIG Galway 2020 project. And we were due to work with Rodrigo Pardo, who I worked with in Rijeka on the rooftop, to do a site-specific kind of audio physical piece based in a place called Knocksoon, which is an amazing kind of 17th century renovated hill village in Connemara. And people were going to get on a bus and put on earphones, and we were working with dancers and a community cast to do a piece based on some old Irish language texts around migration. So it was going to be an Irish language led piece with kind of many languages woven through it. Yeah, full of big ideas, but it kind of has been curtailed. So we're now looking at reimagining it in the virtual reality or in the digital, and we're kind of pushing. We're going to figure it out over the summer. Working with Dr. Marie Cronin, who obviously was involved with the Make a Move kind of at the beginning. So now Rodrigo, was due to be here. Well, it's meant to be on in a couple of weeks, so he would have already been here once and would be coming back. So how we work together, we'll have to see.
So are you finding that the digital technology that you had a chance to kind of explore in the Galway lab, do you see yourself using that more and more now? Is that training kind of coming back through the back of your mind when you're looking at future work?
Yes. I mean, I think the thing is, I would never have thought about doing a VR version of what we'd planned had I not done VR in this year. And similar, because I'm working with Marie. She was also there. So yes, absolutely. I would have thought that it was not for me. And now we were just given a 360 camera and all the gear. And I brought some of the masks. We did a piece called The Fisher Wives in 2018. And I brought some of those masks, and we just kind of went into this sunken church, my group, with these masks and this camera, and went wild. And it's great because to pay people and equipment to do that, to see if your idea works, is super expensive.
It's a bit of a gamble that could be very costly in the long run.
And absolutely, you need an outcome and why, and so in that respect, yes, I think the likes of mapping and sensors, you just need the equipment. So I've now sourced some 360 cameras around Galway, and kind of figured out that it's possible. So now we're kind of figuring out what to do now that we know that we can do it.
Yeah, good.
We're also, the Arts Council, as you probably know, have kind of cancelled a lot of their awards of late. And so one of them was the Theatre Artist in Residence for next year. And within my application for that, Maria Gill from Teatro de Silencio was going to come, and we were going to have this bell ringing community engagement project where we would kind of site specifically have this meditative durational bell ringing as a group. And so we've been applying to a couple of festivals in mainland Europe, and Italy and Sofia in Bulgaria. So it looks like it's going to happen, and we're going to continue the collaboration. And I'm running to get her here, so I'm just waiting to have that opportunity for travel to be easier, or at least possible. As Irish people, you have to fly really, unless you're coming from England. So it's not like in mainland Europe where you can take a train. So we really are going to have to wait until we get kind of green lights.
Great, good. Thanks for all of that, James. So you're at the moment. Tell us about remote control with the Town Hall Theatre. This is what you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, so Remote Control is an artist development program that's going to run over the summer, and we're going to have three artists who are interested in developing their artistic practice and engaging audiences digitally or remotely, or in some way that they can't do at the moment.
Okay.
So we're linking with the Galway Dance Project, and we're linking with the Town Hall Theatre, and we're offering permissions of money and remote mentorship with mainland European theatre practitioners, one or two of whom may be from the Make a Move project, and some in-house development workshops and networking opportunities with the Town Hall. And there's no pressure on a kind of finished product or a work in progress or any of that kind of stuff. It's more about development, and depending on the group, we will figure out what a suitable ending might be, whether it's sharing among the peers or an invited audience or something downloaded. So it's great because we don't know what it's going to be. And as part of my residency with the Town Hall, the original plan was to host workshops from mainland European theatre makers throughout the year for the local theatre community. And obviously the minute the pandemic hit, it was like, that's just not going to happen. So this is a response to that, and this is kind of a hope that something good will come of it for the selected artists, that they can kind of start reimagining how they might engage their audiences. And at the same time, for me, it's great because I haven't done something like this before. I'm also thinking, like, how do we exist in this form if people are uncomfortable sitting beside each other in enclosed spaces for another year? Like, what's going to happen? And back to this idea we talked about at the beginning, we're not filmmakers. That's not what we do, and trying to force that onto artistic practice is, I don't think it wouldn't work for me. It's not kind of where my interest lies. So we're really surprised with how many we got. We're really delighted at how many we got. It goes to show that there's an appetite, and we'll definitely try and run something like that again moving forward. And now we're just figuring out the selection panel and how it's all done, and then we'll start in June. So yeah, that's going on, and then we're working with Creating Nogue, and working with stories and making kind of little mini bits of theatre over the next few weeks. So I think we're going to launch that maybe later this week, which is exciting. So yeah, that's
good. Yeah, there's always something in the works with James. I find anytime I see you, you've some idea that you're cooking in the back of your brain.
Well, I'm lucky that it's always been very good to me since coming home, and I feel quite supported. I think for we've obviously had a tumultuous time with everything that's been happening, but I think the size of Galway really lends itself to people having time to help you. I think as long as it's good to know what it is you want help with.
Yes.
And have the ideas and have the kind of how it'll work. And if you have those, I think there's definitely things here, the space, or people will do you favors. And I think having been in London for so long, and that it can be hard to find that level of kind of kindness, maybe.
I think there's an appetite always in Galway for good work, and people are, if you're sound and if you're really in it, people are inclined to help you out in whatever way they can. Which is a really nice app, because I'm a blow-in from Dublin, so I found that as well, that once you kind of get your foot in the door to a certain extent, people are really there to get behind you, which is brilliant. This has been lovely, James, to chat to you.
Yeah, add to you.
I always find your work very exciting, and I think Galway's lucky to have you back. Congratulations on your second anniversary with Brew Theatre.
Well, thank you very much. Congratulations to Interaction. It looks great, and I look forward to.
Yes, we're very excited about it.
Yeah. Good for you, and it's great to see you. Kind of seamlessly changing into to make this look like it was always meant to be like this.
Yes, well, it was partly meant to be like this, and then we just adapted. Thankfully, one of the things about being in theatre and the arts is that we are endlessly adaptable and flexible. So hopefully, that'll stand to us in all of this.
Yeah, and do you think so? Like, you think that, because I just feel sometimes it's great with something like Galway Theatre Festival because you can take risks, and I suppose the joy is now coming back after this pause where the old way doesn't kind of work anymore. So I suppose it's about finding those opportunities to take those risks, like Make a Move afforded me to kind of go. Yeah. And now it'd be, it's interesting to think what if it was to happen now. The work that we would
such a different project.
It would be a completely different load of work that would have been made, because we didn't have to think about it. We're trying to get our head around technology a little bit, whereas now it's so different how you kind of say the words live performance. It's like, wow, it's taking a whole other meaning.
I know. And I do long for a day when you can sit in the dark in an audience and just feel the kind of magic of all these strangers experiencing the same thing as you. But I think we'll also have to come at it from a totally different angle. There is a feeling of this being maybe a chance to kind of wipe the slate clean and see what we need to make it work in whatever the new reality is.
Yeah, and to make it sustainable, and inclusive, and all those things that it kind of hasn't been.
Yes.
And that's the real hope, that like it can be supportive and it can be open. because it's hard, as you know, it's hard to make it, and to kind of not be constantly worried about the next or the next or the next. And so the hope is that maybe a little bit of the model will have a shake up.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. We'll cross our fingers for that anyway.
Yeah,
and we'll work for it. And I think that's the thing, that if we're all now on the same kind of blank slate, where we all need to work with each other to make it possible to do these things again, that there's a chance that maybe we can remake it the way that we want it to be. Maybe. And
it's like we're no longer sleepwalking. It's like we are having to stop and jolted and like, okay, well, we can't go on like we've been going. So what about how we've been going isn't working, or is a bit broken? And what, I think a lot of people realizing that they work too much, or that they're too busy, or, that they're enjoying reading a book, or, with me, I am just kind of not being as A to B to C. And then when that kind of stops and you break that a little bit, it's like, okay, but what do we want to keep? What do we want to change?
Yeah.
And back to this idea of that being possible when that is clear. I think when there's a clarity in the want, I suppose, or in the ask.
Yeah, I think we're in for an interesting couple of months. But yeah, there's good work being done, and there's people who are, with Phoebe and having their drive-in theatre in the summer, and people are reimagining in really positive ways. So I think there's a lot of exciting potential coming down the line. No more so than all of the ideas that you're working away on. And I'm very excited to see what comes from all of them.
Yeah, me too. There's no one more excited than I am.
Sure, look, we'll find out.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's been lovely to talk to you, James.
Agus the ring, Gravina Mahagat. Thanks very much.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, and mind yourself.
Yeah, and you. Best of luck with the rest of it, Sorcha.
Thank you very much. Sloan.